Like, people always ask, oh man, is your job getting so much easier now with AI? And I say, truthfully, I think it's getting harder, to be honest. It's way harder than it used to be. And like stuff that we used to get paid for as designers, like a year ago even, doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's quick to get 80% of the way there, and then you'll spend a week plus just doing these small changes. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
Welcome to Beyond the Brief. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Strath McKay, co-founder of Akima Studio based out of Byron Bay. Strath has built a broad and slightly unconventional design career. He started as a mechanic, before then moving into branding and graphic design, and working with everyone from coffee companies through to Web3 businesses, before finally settling in digital products and UX. And you can see that experience in his work. It has a strong visual point of view, which is backed by a real understanding of how products work and how people use them. Two things really stood out to me in this conversation. The first is how Strath is using AI creatively. He's not simply asking it to produce finished work. He's building small, completely customized tools that give him new ways to create. If an existing product doesn't have the controls or output that he needs, it can now make the exact tool that the project calls for. The second is how he's using the same technology to remove the drudgery. In this episode, we cover a proposal system that he built that turns a client conversation into a simple website-based proposal in minutes. And it was this dual nature of utilization that was really interesting to me, from the creative support through to the operational improvements. It was a great conversation and we cover a lot. So let's get into it. Strath, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. It's good to have you on. It's been really good to see from afar, Akima, the work that you've been doing. You sort of hit me up when I was early in my journey as well. And I really like the work that you're doing. So I thought it'd be really good to have you on and talk about what you've done, where you've come from, and how you're using AI within the studio. So let me know a little bit about your past and your history. Where have you come from, and what have you done?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting origin story, to be honest, but just a little intro about myself. I'm Strath. I'm based on the east coast of Australia. So I'm currently running Akima Studio, which you mentioned. So we're basically like a boutique design studio. It's myself and my business partner, Jake, and focus mostly on like web design, product design, a lot more AI stuff now. But like, as you know, with how fast things are changing, that service offering changes just about every couple of months into like, the different things that we do and how that all works, how we work with clients. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, but definitely enjoying it for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
yeah, for sure. But what was your question about the origin story? Like where
have you came from, and what's led you to this path now where you've started Akima and you're doing this sort of digital product design?
Yeah. So actually a pretty interesting story. I used to be a mechanic, so came out of school and I'm from a small surf town on the east coast of Australia. So everyone was either becoming a tradie or something similar. So I didn't know what to do. Jumped into that, realized pretty quickly that I hated it. And this is just like when Instagram was first coming out, starting to become a thing. I started seeing people like working remotely, living overseas, like the whole digital nomad thing. And I just remember thinking, if I can do that, like my life will be sorted. So I pretty much made it my number one goal. It's like, if I can work from a laptop and live overseas, I'll be the happiest man alive, which we'll get into, but doesn't quite work out like that. So from there, it sort of led me into like, okay, what can I do? And at the time I was doing a bit of photography and stuff like that. And I thought, I need to do something where I can be 100% remote, work on the laptop. So I was already in this sort of creative industry. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to become a designer. Like at the time it was graphic design was the big thing, obviously web design too, but it was like early days of products and apps and iPhones and stuff like that. So quit my job, bought a laptop, and signed up for a uni course. And funnily enough,
you just decided you just quit and away you went. Was that daunting, or at the time it was sort of that youthful naivety where you're just like, I'll just do it?
Man, I was so ready. I was like, I'll do anything. Like it was a bit of a mix of that youthful naivety and just like, I'll hustle whatever I have to do to make it work.
You really didn't want to be a mechanic.
No way. But it's an interesting story how I kind of got into it. So I signed up for this uni course. It was 3 years, like a Bachelor of Design. I just got a laptop like probably 2 weeks before that. So before I was just like, using the phone, pretty green to the whole thing. And then I was on a photo shoot, like I was doing a bit of paid photography work. And then I was on this shoot and I met this guy who was paying for the shoot, and he had a startup based in Brizzy, like a tech startup. And he's like, oh, I'm putting together this creative team. I told him like, yeah, man, I'm studying design, blah, blah. I hadn't even started yet, but I was just sort of like told him I was a designer. And he's like, oh, would you be keen to like come and work for us? Maybe do like a paid internship or something. And I was like, yeah, sure. So jumped into that and started this internship. And it was just like such a ridiculous situation. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was kind of pretending I was a designer because I told him I was. So I'm sitting there
I think we all still are.
Oh, man.
We all still pretend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So you're just exposed to a lot really early on, but you had to pretend and learn really fast, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like that's honestly the best way to do it is just get chucked in the deep end. And yeah, they would request all this stuff like, hey, can you get this to us and design this? And I'd be there like trying to figure out like YouTubing how to do Illustrator and Photoshop, like while I was,
nice.
I meant to know what I'm doing. But I learned fast, which was really good.
Great. So how'd you end up in Bali then?
Yeah, interesting story. Like obviously, as I mentioned, it was always the goal is to go and live overseas and work from the laptop. So it took a little bit longer than I expected. I thought it was going to be a quick journey, but ended up, doing that internship. That turned into a paid job. And then this was still in my first year of uni. And then I got offered like another full-time design role. And so I remember sitting, it was like just before the end of my first year at uni. I remember sitting there like talking to the other people there and going, hang on, like I have so much more experience than any of these people. Like essentially they had no idea. And I was like, man, I'm already onto like my second essentially full-time design job. And like the amount of things I've learned during that has been ridiculous. And I'm like, why would I waste the next 2 years here when I can just go and like, just dive in head first and actually work for clients? Because like, as you know, if you're doing like a mock-up job or whatever, it's so different to like a real client project where it's like, there's serious consequences for getting things wrong, and you got to do it properly. You got to check all your pixels.
Yeah.
And
I remember at uni, I had an entire semester to do an identity and a gig poster for a festival or something, and that was the whole semester. And out of uni, you have to do that in like a week. It's just the real world. It works at a lot of a different pace. So yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. If you're working with clients, you're going to level up really, really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Super interesting. But onto that of like, so this was a lot more graphic design kind of stuff, and just I was always interested like getting into web and app design and everything. But I was still pretty like relatively new to it. This will lead into how we got to Bali. So I had a mentor at the time who I met during my internship, and he was a product designer, and he was always sort of pushing me into this product kind of side of thing. This is a few years later, and he goes, oh man, I've got this job to design an app, like end-to-end branding, UX, UI, like the full thing. Do you want to do it with me? I was like, yeah, sure. So it's like I jumped into that with him and just got to sit in on the whole experience. So we had all these stakeholder meetings, like I was going there and, watching him work, because he was obviously had a lot more experience than me. And it's like, whoa, like this is actually crazy. It's a crazy world. Like, diving deep into all the business requirements and how it actually works to build a product from scratch. Which I learned a lot. So I did quite a bit of work with him. And then obviously, that turned into more things, got referrals and stuff. And then I had planned to move to Bali, and I just started my previous studio, which was a lot more focused on like branding and stuff. And this guy calls me up and goes, hey man, I got this job. If you want it, it's a crypto gig based in the US. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, sure. So he put me in contact with them, and it was just like, that's a whole crazy story in itself, but essentially got this like contracting gig that turned into a 2-year engagement with this crypto company called Juicebox. And
so at the time you were designing for like coffee brands and stuff, right? I did a little bit of research. You're doing sort of graphic design work, and this sort of Web3 stuff came out of nowhere. Did you have any experience with Web3 at all?
Yeah, it was kind of like the perfect storm. So I've been into crypto, I think like yourself, since the early days. 2017 was like my first exposure, and went through that whole bull market and got super into it then, and obviously the next one. And so I was always super into crypto, and it sort of just like came up this opportunity to do you want this like product design role, but in crypto? And I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Because the actual user experience of that whole space is, I mean, I'm going to be blunt, I think it's pretty awful. It's very hard to use the products.
It's insane,
And
man. You just can't even believe how bad it is for.
yeah. And so to expect the average person to use that sort of stuff, I think is a bit of a reach because of how bad the experience is. So I guess as a product designer, it's a good opportunity because you have to really understand the way it all works with your wallets and et cetera. And to create something that's usable is a big challenge in that space. So did you learn a lot from that about like user experience and flows and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. So it was an interesting kind of scenario because it was essentially, it was a DAO basically, but they had like contributors who were like paid contributors. So it's like, I say contracting gig, but it was like, yeah, the structure was very different, but it was all anonymous as well. Like a lot of stuff is in crypto, which I mean, if you've been in the crypto space, that sounds normal. But when I tell people like I worked at this job for 2 years and spoke to people every day and I didn't know what they looked like or who they were. And they're just like, what do you mean, dude? So
this guy is my boss and he's a fluffy rabbit. You just have no idea what random little thumbnails of people.
It's crazy, man. It's like, it's a wild world, but I was always really interested in it because, like, obviously, as a UX designer getting into crypto, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, and a lot of these products, they're kind of made by developers and they go, oh, this is how we want it to work. And like, they expect everyone to know everything. Yeah. I'm like, this is crazy, dude. Like, the average person would never be able to come on here and just.
I could never get my head around that. I don't know whether it's a level of. It's potentially hubris. I don't know, but they expect people to use it the way that it makes sense to them, and that doesn't make sense to anybody. It's just, so you have to start with the experience and work back from there. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow for some people in that space. And there wasn't very many projects that I experimented with where I thought, okay, this is actually really enjoyable to use. Even some of the mainstream stuff's really hard. Like I use Jack Dorsey's BitKey for cold wallet, and even that is it's supposed to be super simple, but sometimes it confuses me, right? So it's an interesting space. And so you did a couple of years in that and trial by fire, learning all the ins and outs.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like the role that I took on was the lead UX designer for this company. And I was essentially like, I didn't have no idea what I'm doing. Like I'd done a few apps here and there and websites, but I was pretty new to the whole space. And then like getting chucked in with a whole bunch of Solidity developers and everything. And they're just like blah, 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 contracts and this and that. And, just having to learn on the fly. But I think it taught me so much about
all the lingo.
Yeah. But like about actual user experience design, which I think a lot of us came into this to kind of do, which I was always super interested in. And I think that's something that doesn't get spoken about. I don't know about you, but like I haven't heard the word UX design in such a long time, like on Twitter or.
I think you're right. I think that the title of UX designer, it kind of conjures up this image of like Post-it notes and bad wireframes, and someone that does research with focus groups and stuff. I think that is somewhat changing. A UX designer is someone who sees, it's almost like you're a product lead. You're thinking about the experience of the application from start to finish. You're not just designing screens. So there's more to it. Yeah. And I don't know if UX designer as a title is I think it's changing. I think you're right. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It would be quite laughable nowadays for someone to just be like, oh, I'm just going to be a UX designer and I can't do any visual design and I can't, build products or anything. I'm just going to do, the sticky notes in the workshops and that's it. I mean, maybe at a massive company, but.
Yeah. Well, okay. Question for you. Why do you think that is? Like, it feels like roles are converging. It feels like as a designer, you have to do more. Do you feel that with your customers and clients? Why do you think that's happening?
Oh man, absolutely. Like people always ask, oh man, is your job getting so much easier now with AI? And I'd say, truthfully, I think it's getting harder, to be honest. It's way harder than it used to be. And like something that just blows my mind is stuff that we used to get paid for as designers like a year ago even doesn't exist anymore. Like, I don't know about you, but a year ago I was getting paid well to do static Figma designs and just hand them off to developers. Nowadays, like that is just absolutely not a thing. It's like you're pretty much expected to be able to build your own stuff, and at least to a degree that's like you can hand it off to someone to implement, but it needs to be, you can't just be like, oh, here's my static design and go and do it. So that side of things.
There is the. Sorry, I was going to say, you're right. Expectations have changed. It's if you're just doing static screens, there are some people that are still doing that quite successfully. And I think it takes a while for the entire market to catch up. I'm sure you could sell that, in certain cities, but generally speaking, you're right. Like I find that when I'm working with people now, they don't want to just see a design. They actually want to use the thing, like, well, what do you mean you haven't built a prototype? Like I heard AI makes that really easy. So there's this expectation that the technology makes things so easy now, that you just have to do more. So I am with you. You have to do a lot more.
A lot more. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think especially with clients that like understand it a bit, but not enough to realize how difficult some of the stuff is. And I feel like something that is frustrating, people are valuing design a little bit less, depending on the client. But like I had a client call this morning and we were talking about, the redesign of this site, and it's like quite a complex, like web app. And she goes, oh, can't you just use Reloom? And I'm like, you could, but it's not. Like she's obviously seen, like, you see like the promotional video and it's like, wow, you can just go click, click, click and it makes the wireframes and then you get this perfect design. And I'm like, it's never going to turn out like that. And it's not that easy. And, I was sort of explaining the process of doing the discovery and like talking, because it's like, if it's a complex experience, like talking to some of the users, finding out where they're getting stuck and actually doing like a design process rather than just like, can you make it look better? But I think people are now just thinking AI is just this magic thing. Just boom, click a few buttons, and it's new.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's just crazy.
You're absolutely. And it's the same. Look, it's just the same thing as like when Canva came out, right? Or even Microsoft Word. People thought, if you do identity design, you used to do business cards and letterheads. Like that was the thing, right? You build the letterhead template. That shows how old I am. But then, people got Word and they just do it themselves. But then they'd mess everything up, they get the bleeds wrong, or, they couldn't print it properly, or they just like, they paste graphics in rather than having fonts and stuff. So it's the same with this. It's like same with Canva, oh, you can just use Canva now and I can do it myself. It's like, yes, you can. But with AI tools, someone who knows what they're doing is going to get a much better result than someone who doesn't. So if you're going to use Claude to spit out an app design with Claude design, make me an app design for this, you're just going to get average, and it's going to look like everyone else that went as far as that, and it's not going to work very well. It requires someone like yourself who's got the experience of actually thinking through how it's supposed to work and distilling that down into a unique experience that only shows the user what they need to see. It guides them through. It's really easy, right? You can't just shout out to Reloom though. It is a cool product. I like, and they're good guys. But those sorts of products have made people think that it's a lot easier than it really is. But they're just a type of paintbrush, right?
Exactly.
So what was next? What happened after that? Yeah.
After the crypto thing?
Yeah. So you did a bit of crypto. You worked with wallets. You did a bunch of UX, and how did you get back into Queensland and into Akima?
Yeah. So this part is pretty interesting. So I was working for Juicebox and having a lot of fun, and then had a few referrals from that and started working with some other agencies, like all in the crypto space, doing a lot of design in that space and helping, create these products and just different things. And I was just getting a lot of work coming in. And at the same time, like we were getting paid in crypto for some of these jobs. And then you're getting these tokens and then they're going up and we're coming into this bull market. And it was just starting to get into this kind of out of control crypto bull market situation, which I know you've probably experienced. And at at the time I'm living in Bali. So it was like, I was living with my wife and then my best mate and his wife lived there and we're all sort of doing a similar thing. And it just got to a point where I was like, man, I've been so burnt out from I was just hustling for basically 7 years straight to try and get to this point. Wow. And now I've hit what I would essentially call my dream life. And I'm like, I'm going to take a bit of time off. So, while this crypto is rolling in and, I had some of these projects and stuff, I'm just going to take a step back, take a bit of time off. And this like little bit of time off turned into over a year off, just completely off. So it was like pretty crazy, but I feel grateful that I got to experience that.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
it should have probably taken me longer to get bored. I mean, but I got probably about 3 or 4 months in, I realized like, man, you can't if you just surf every day and do nothing, it gets pretty boring pretty quickly. So it's like, I need to do something. But I had like a wedding coming up, so I got married and went on this long honeymoon and just had a lot of fun. But coming back to that,
Nice.
it just starts to feel super pointless and empty after a while. You just like, wake up, go surfing, go to the cafe, like hang out, and you're like, what even is this?
It's one of those things that sounds nice, I had a similar experience. It sounds nice to do that, but you lose purpose and you feel like for me anyway, it kind of feels like your brain just stops working. You've got to, and if you're a hustler, you've been doing that for 7 years, you want to keep doing that. It's something that's in.
For sure. And something that what made me realize like, okay, shit, I need to go and like, get back into the world and start doing something, getting my purpose, make an impact, whatever you want to call it, is like going to these like social, obviously living in Bali, there's a lot of social situations, heaps of parties and paddle, and like you're always meeting people, and you'd meet people and they'd be like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, well, I'm a designer, or I used to be a designer, now I do crypto. And it's like, It's just such a boring story. Like nobody cares that you just do crypto, It's so, sorry to all like the crypto bros out there, but I just felt so boring.
Public perception is not a positive one, is it? Yeah.
No way. So we decided to make the move back to Oz. Like we're in Bali for 3 years. So it's like, all right, it's time to get back there. I want to start a business. At the time I was like, I'm just going to jump back into freelancing and see where that takes me. And the tough part about that was like when I stopped working, AI was just sort of becoming a thing. Like it wasn't really a big part of my process. I was using ChatGPT a bit and like, some of the stuff for client notes, but it really wasn't that big. And like just having that year off and then coming back into it early 2025, it was like, whoa, everything's different now. Yeah, it's like seriously different. And so it was like quite an adjustment, just like jumping back in. But I think that kind of reinvigorated my excitement for the space of just being like, wow, like I can do this now and this now. And every month there's a new thing. And now I can build and now we can code and shit, what if I did this? And so,
when was that moment for you where you really clicked that, this is something different. This is something that's going to change everything? Because everyone's had that moment when they play with this stuff, it starts with the chat bot, but then you have that moment where you think, okay, nothing's the same.
Yeah, I think it might have been early this year, like January 26 or end of 2025, where I really got into Claude Code and I was like, oh, hang on, like we can literally do anything now. Because before, I don't know about you, but not that I felt limited by the developer handoff, but like quite often, I'd come up with this like amazing design and we're going to have this and, animation direction and stuff. And you give it to the devs and like, no, we can't animate that. No, we can't do this. Like, so there was always that barrier of like what you could and couldn't do.
They can, it was too expensive and would take too long.
Exactly.
That was, So, and I had a similar experience, and I've said this before. It was kind of, I've been using it for a while, but for various things, generating images and doing the odd code snippets here and there, but it was never something that could be, I thought would be, something I could lean into until, like late last year. So it was the same. I think it was Opus 4 point something and Claude Code, and, you start playing with it and you're building things that you're testing it and you're building it, you're looking at the output. This is like production quality. This is blowing me away. That was a moment for me. It was that Christmas break. I just decided to spend more time learning, and it knocked my socks off. Had an inkling before then. You're watching the progression get better, and then you see one model and you see the next model, you see the capability increase, and you don't have to be an idiot to realize that it's going to keep going and it's going to be able to do more. But it's one thing to think about it, and it's another thing to sort of see it happen and actually really impact your work. So it sounds like you had a pretty similar experience to me. It was playing with it around that period. And so at that point then, did you sort of take that into Akima, or did you meet your co-founder around that time, or how did that happen?
Yeah. This is actually another interesting story. So I was, sort of looking for the next thing. Like I was doing a bit of freelance when I got back and kind of, I was, I'd been working alone essentially for quite a long time, freelancing and doing contracting stuff. And I was like, man, I want to do something in the world like with people again. So I was sort of like trying to
people.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
not funny avatars and anonymous heads. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so I went down for a surf trip to Byron Bay with a mate, and he's like, "Oh, I just met this guy. He's going to come surfing with us tomorrow." And I thought, man, I don't want this random dude to come surfing with us. Like, you know what I mean? Anyway, so we get out there and we're just sitting in the surf having a chat. And I go, "Oh, what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a UX designer." And I was like, "Oh, no way!" Like, because it's pretty rare to meet someone like in real life who does product design. Got chatting to him. I was like, "Yeah, I do the same thing." And then we surfed together. We were there for like 3 days, so we were just surfing every day and kept chatting about it. And he's like, "Oh, I'm thinking of starting this like an agency," because he worked for a big agency at the time. He's like, "I'm thinking of starting my own thing."
RGA, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, man, I'd be keen to jump in with you if you're going to start something. And he's like, let's do it. So we sort of started as a joke. We spoke about it and then we caught up like a month later and he's like, "Do you reckon we should just do this thing?" It's like, yeah, let's go. So we just kind of started and it just has been working super well since then. And, it's just pretty risky. You meet someone and they're a complete random. Like doing business with someone can be, as you probably know, it's always a bit of a risk. But I got super lucky.
Great. Shout out to, is it Jake? Shout out to Jake.
Jake, yeah. Big shout out to Jake.
Nice. Oh, that's great. So the studio's going well. So thanks for the intro, the sort of history as well. That's great. You've done a lot. What's kind of one thing that you learned from that journey that has led into the type of work you do now, right? You spend a lot of time in the crypto space. That's probably given you a bit of a UX brain. You've done a lot of branding. You worked for, I think you did some branding for a coffee company. You've got quite a diverse range of skills. What's kind of the main thing that you've taken from that to help you with the kind of work you're doing at Akima?
My biggest lesson, I would say, is you can just do way more than you think. And even if you think you don't know how to do it, especially now with AI, like if someone asks like, "Hey, can you do this?" Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. And you can always figure it out. And it's probably not as hard as you think. And if it is, you can always, get someone to help you. So that's probably been my biggest takeaway. Another thing just on that is like I don't know if you've read the book Who Not How. I think it's by Dan Sullivan. All right, I definitely recommend it. But it's like when you want to do something, it's like who can help you do it rather than like how can I do it? And that's just helped so many times of like, shit, I don't know how to do this thing. And it's like, oh, I know someone who, who's a specialist in that. Reach out to them. You can always get help that way, or they can push you through the right doors. And so that's been a big unlock for me.
Oh, great. Yeah. Don't do it alone.
Don't do it alone.
Good advice.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, fantastic. So let's pivot to Akima. Now you guys seem to be doing a bit of web, bit of digital design, product design. Give me the rundown of what your niche is, what you're focusing on, and then I want to sort of get an understanding of how you're using this new stack to create your work. How you've evolved from Figma and static screens to creating products.
Yeah, for sure. So Akima has essentially started as like a boutique design studio. So obviously Jake has this like massive agency experience, which can be amazing, but also quite a slow process. And I come from like the more visual design, branding side of things into products. So we wanted to create a studio where, it's very taste led, which is a bit of a bad buzzword, right? With all the AI slop, I guess we wanted to have something that's like we actually put our craft into it and spend a lot of time and care going through the user experience, the user journey, like diving deep into the visual language and like creating something that's different and meaningful. And it's mostly focused on websites, to be honest, at the moment. Like products is definitely something we do, but I just feel like that niche for us is really good. And like brand identity and stuff. But really interestingly, a lot of the outreach we've had lately has been Shopify. Like the last 3 clients in a row have all been Shopify e-commerce, which is really interesting. So we haven't like advertised for that at all, but something I'm noticing, I don't know if it's like the current economy or what's going on, but people are like, "Hey, we've got this brand. We used to do well. Sales have dropped and we think it might be the website or like this and this." But it's a theme I'm noticing a lot. Like I've had a lot of outreach specifically around that in like the design kind of space.
And so are you focused on the sort of the conversion aspect of those types of experiences as well? Or is it the whole, do you just design and build the website, or are you working ongoingly to improve, conversion rates and sales? Are you sort of a goals-based, objective-based studio as well?
Yeah, for sure. So conversion rate has been a big thing. Like Jake did a lot of work on that in his role that he was doing before. And I've done quite a bit of e-commerce stuff in the past. So it's like obviously very focused on that as well as the design stuff. But it's just crazy now, like what you can do, obviously with these tools and Shopify's CLI. It's like before, I don't know if you've done much of it, but it was like such a nightmare to try and get custom stuff done in Shopify. You'd have to have these developers and now it's like, man, you can just go Codex, CLI, bang, I want this, I want to do this. And it's just like, just perfectly.
You never need to leave your IDE. I think is it Toby, the CEO? I mean, you look at his GitHub, he's shipping every day.
Yeah, for sure.
They seem to be very progressive in this space, and the Shopify is being retooled to be sort of like an agent first experience, right?
Yeah, they got like the whole Agentic
and that just sees it grow and grow and grow. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. And as a designer, if you can I know this sounds crazy, but if you can work in an IDE with text, rather than having to learn another UI, that's a huge unlock. Like you can just work a lot faster.
For sure.
So you've found that as well, right? So you're getting a lot of Shopify customers, maybe because it's a great brand and they're growing a lot and people want to use it because people are using it. But how are you using the tooling to help your customers with these sites? Like, are you finding it a lot faster? Run us through a typical workflow for creating a Shopify site with this new tools.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you've probably found, honestly, my design process, I'd say now, sounds bad, but it changes with every new client, like every project, because the rate these tools are growing and changing. It's like, oh, now you don't have to do this, but you can do this. And now, oh, we have to do this, and we're trying this new thing. So it's just this like ever changing, morphing kind of thing. And then
I don't think that sounds bad. I think that's the right approach. You kind of have to.
But you remember back in the days, like the double diamond, like the design process, like, gather all the things, to do this, converge, diverge, and now it's just totally different. But in terms of like how we use AI in this process, something I've been finding really good is like having, basically, we've got like a skill that kind of takes client notes, like a transcript from a call. Like we always run a workshop before we start, and then it like packages it into this like really succinct document that gives us everything we need, like requirements and everything like that. And then that'll sort of export a list of everything we need to go through. And then I'm still doing a lot of like the visual direction stuff. So I love to, like, Jake handles most of the UX and the data and the wireframes and like figuring out customer journey. And I'm jumping into a lot more visual direction and figuring that out and design systems and everything. But we essentially, what I'm finding is this like back and forth between Figma and the AI. I'm actually using Figma quite a bit more now than I was in previous months, just like now with the Figma agents and stuff. I don't know if you've tried it, but it's been pretty good.
I've tried it a lot. And the first MCP release I thought was awful. I think but lately it's been a lot better. That last agent release that they did, I'm getting a lot better results, and I can do a lot more from the IDE. Like I don't necessarily need to open Figma as much for small changes. And the quality's not perfect, but it gets you a good of the way there, and then you can just do that last sort of refinement, right? So it has definitely gotten better, and it's good to see you're still using it. I think like Figma as a tool, and I've tried all those tools like pencil and paper and all the different ones, but I think there's like a muscle memory with Figma. Like you used it for so many years, you just know all the shortcuts, you know where everything is, and you just sort of get in that flow state a lot quicker. So I'm with you. I find iterating with an agent in Figma still probably the best way to design. Something changes. I'm hanging out for Opacity by Drew Wilson. That looks really good. But anyway.
I'll have to look into it. But Claude Design as well, been playing with, like, like none of those will ever give you anything that is shippable, even remotely, in my opinion. So it's like, but being able to just be like, hey, give me three concepts for this section. And you're like, oh, cool, I kind of like this. I'm going to take this and tweak it. So it's a lot of that, like, all right, I'm going to tweak this and go back and forth. But what I've found, like, I think a lot of people will say, oh, design me this and creating this web page, and then they'll sit there in Claude Code and say, change this, add this, which I've done a lot of, but it just, you end up, it's quick to get 80% of the way there, and then you'll spend a week plus just doing these small changes. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And so I've kind of built this, I don't know what you call, sort of a harness system sort of thing, just from different elements that like can really, really accurately pull from Figma using the MCP, but just checking everything, making sure it's perfect. So it's like getting it 80% of the way there, then pulling that into Figma and then designing sections myself. Like, as you know, just to get that level of craft, like designing it by hand is pretty unbeatable. But then being able to pull it back into a preview and be like, all right, let's like try some, different animations on here and see what the hover effects and try this and tweaking that kind of stuff that would used to take forever trying to figure out in Figma.
Yeah. Oh, you've nailed the workflow. I think you're dead on the money there. Like iterating in an IDE for the last 20% is a nightmare. So it sounds like you're doing things the right way. I want to hone in on what you said around you've created something that sort of produces your Figma designs more accurately. So you would generate something, you get it to do, it sounds like you're iterating with it, create a bunch of variations, and then you're doing the fine tuning, but then you've built something so that it can take a frame and accurately build it out like a one-to-one, because I found that to be inconsistent. How did you do that? What are you doing?
Dude, it's one of the classic things. So I was like part of this store community where it was kind of like a way to do that. And so I pulled a version of that from there and I was like, oh, this is kind of working, but not super well. So I'm like, all right, let's try this. And like iterating on it, just trying it heaps of different times. And then like, all right, how can we morph this to work with Shopify? So trying that. And then like, okay, this doesn't, like, something it was doing is like reading everything every single time and then going through the whole theme every single time, checking everything and then making the change. And it was like just spending all these tokens and just like taking forever. I was like, what's going on? So it's like building out this thing, you're making all of these mistakes. And eventually it just got to the stage where it's like, okay, it's checking its own work and checking it against Figma well enough that it's like, I'm actually finding it really fast to be able to build a section in Figma and then just say, hey, implement this, chuck it in there. And then I can tweak little bits and pieces and then bring it back if needed. But I'm finding that a lot faster than just going through, 10 AI slop iterations and trying to tell it to tweak it and go back and forth and everything.
Right. So it started with some sort of skill that you found, and then you've just built on top of that through, I guess, pain.
Exactly.
Fix this problem. Why are you doing this? Improve this. So it's not something that you set out to sort of just go, I'm going to build this perfect system. It's organically occurred through the workflow itself, and you've sort of just spoken to the AI to improve that experience.
Exactly. And it's funny when I say, I built this, like I didn't do anything, Codex did it also. But it's yeah.
I find that's a barrier that people don't get, a lot, where they say, how do you do it? But you just ask it, just talk to it, and you work together. It's like a coworker.
Yeah, and if you don't know, you just say, cool, I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry,
yeah. It's infinitely patient. So you've built this system to build out Shopify sites. What else are you doing in with Shopify? Is there anything there so you're iterating on your designs, but what about creating your product catalogs, all of the development? You're doing all of that in-house as well?
Yeah, just the whole thing, which is, I am shocked about how kind of well it works. I mean, it is a lot harder than I thought as well. It's like easier and harder at the same time, which can be a lot of AI stuff. But yeah, doing the whole thing. So previously, you'd get a theme and then like try to add custom components, and it was a bit of a nightmare. Now it's like, all right, sick. Like the sky's the limit. Let's just pull the theme and then, recreate this design in Figma, add different sections. And then because Shopify has this structure already with the liquid connected to all the collections and products, you can essentially say, as part of that skill, it has all of that baked in, that like everything needs to be editable through the back end of Shopify, and everything needs to be connected to, say, the cart and the products and all of that. So it kind of knows, and it'll ask you a lot of questions going through, but you can just be like, sweet, build this and add this, create this site basically. And then it's just building it all out in there. So it's doing the whole thing, writing the code in Liquid, connecting it to all the collections and the products and creating that experience.
Amazing. And, like crazy. A year ago, would you imagine that you'd be doing that kind of work?
Oh, no way. Not a chance.
Yeah. So it's broadened your capability as a designer.
Absolutely.
What do you think about it? Also, I've said to a few people that like designers should now build and not develop. You don't have to understand the code, but you have to actually, in my view, you have to see the rough edges. You have to see all the different edge cases and things like that as a designer. Are you feeling that? Is it a space that you're trending towards, or are you still spending a lot of time in Figma actually crafting designs?
No, definitely. Absolutely trending towards the building side of things. And I think it's more exciting when you can, see what you've created actually out in the world and be pushing it and changing things. And, it's still, because it's changing so quick, it's still such a crazy landscape where it's like no one really knows what's going on, but it's getting that good. Like I have a lot of developer friends and talking to them, and some of them are like, and I honestly don't even check the code anymore. It's that good. I just ship it. And it's like,
it depends on the project for me as well. Yeah. As long as it's a really robust plan and your tests are correct and it verifies, and then you'll verify it yourself. I don't need to look at the code, I think it works. Okay, cool. So, Shopify building. What else are you guys focusing on at Akima? Is there other ways that you're kind of using AI to accelerate your work?
Yeah, for sure. Something else which, as you said, kind of came about as an accident of just trial and error. I think we might have spoken about briefly, is this proposal tool that we built for in-house. Yep. And it's become the most useful thing ever. And it was simply born out of my biggest pain point over the last 5 years of freelancing has been proposals. I can't stand it because I don't know about you, but I've wasted so much time on quoting and proposals and, it's been a nightmare.
And then you spend the time to make it look right because you're a designer and you can't not, right? And then the client just ghosts you.
Exactly. Man.
All this time.
There's been times.
So what are you doing? Can you share? Could you show us what you create?
Yeah, for sure. I might share my screen. And then the other things I'll just go through quickly, which is what pretty much everyone's doing right now, but just building your own custom tools for a project, which is, I think, something so exciting, which I'll go through shortly. But when you're like, I really need this effect for this thing. And it's there's probably something out there and you look for it. Oh, man, I just tell, Codex to build me this and I've got it and then I can just export it and it's done. I'll just pull up a screen share and run you through this super quick.
Yeah, please.
Can you see this?
Yep. It's working well.
Okay, sweet. Nice. So this is honestly probably super unsophisticated compared to what some of your other guests do, but it's one of those things where it's I'll give you the quick story about it, and it's just how quickly can you get it done to a working capacity. So the story behind this is a lot of designers, I was over designing proposals, taking way too long. And I was I'm so sick of this. So I was I'm going to create a proposal tool. So I started building this ridiculous proposal tool that just took, I was it needs to have this and we need to have a back end and all this stuff and auth. And it's just turned into this Frankenstein. And I just ended up scrapping it. And I was man, this is ridiculous. And I was all right, back to the drawing board. I was using Notion for proposals at the time, which had been working for years, which is pretty funny. And then one day we had a fairly big client coming up and I was all right, I need something. I can't just send them a Notion. It's got to be something good. So I was what's the quickest way I can build this? And I was all I want is something I can just get an MD file that has the structure. I can just whack it in there and it just generates me a page, an HTML page that just looks good. So I got it to build that and I was nice. This actually looks sick. So I iterated on it a bit. And this is where we've kind of landed. It honestly hasn't changed heaps. There's a lot I need to do with it. But the system is essentially, we've got this, the project in GitHub, and there's a content section which has the proposals. And essentially we have a skill that turns, if we have a client call or whatever, it essentially pulls all of that and I say create a proposal based on what they asked for. I usually go back and forth just in Claude or GPT and just edit it a little bit with the pricing and everything, but it's getting super accurate with our pricing and standards and everything like that. We put it into here. So I just did a mock-up one for Overflow. And then essentially it's just hits this subdomain, which is just proposals.akima.studio, and then has the slug of the client name. And then it's just this complete populated page, which is essentially on our site. And then we can just send this directly to the client and it's completely editable. They can go through it. It has all of the the options here. So it's got, this is just like an example for you, but for like a website, a few different options.
I'm in. Where do I start?
Different inclusions. But the best thing is like they can go through and then like check all the stuff. It's kind of got like terms and conditions, whatever. They can see all the next steps. I mean, this looks relatively AI, but then they can just go accept proposal and like they can hit accept.
And that's all been generated from as a layer on top of Markdown, which has been generated from a skill based on a meeting. So you have the meeting, your skill then takes that transcription and turns it into that Markdown file, and then your system just takes the Markdown and generates the proposal as a HTML file on your subdomain.
Exactly. So it's like, it's such a seamless method now, and it's worked super well. Like, honestly, everyone we send it to goes, man, this is like such a good thing. I'm usually receiving like these PDFs or whatever. So they've been in, and it's great getting the email saying like, so-and-so accepted your proposal.
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah,
cool.
Love that.
That's brilliant. And I think the important thing to mention, one of the things I want to raise there is when you said that you spend all this time trying to create a tool and it became a Frankenstein. And I think that's a fairly typical experience with this stuff is like, because you feel that it can do so much, you're like, I can have an editor where I can drag this section and add that new section and have a back end, whatever. And then you very quickly realize that this is a surface that you have to maintain and improve and bug fix. And it doesn't stop. It's just why, and you've done the right, this is brilliant. You've just distilled it down into what's the simplest, fastest way to get a quality result. And I think that's something that I'd like listeners to take away is like HTML works so well for this type of tooling. You don't need to create a PDF and export it from Figma anymore. Lean into what these tools are good at, and generating HTML that they just crush. This is brilliant.
For sure. Even like as a product designer, you think, I need to have this back end and I need to be able to edit, go and edit in there and edit the style, edit the text. And then it needs like what you see is what you get, editor. And the whole thing's like, you don't need any of that. Like everything's a markdown and you can just run it like that, which is...
and it's just running on a GitHub repo.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much you could do with it, which is great.
And once you get over that first initial, like, how do I push? What's a commit? And you learn those basics. It really opens up. That's so cool. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, thanks. The other, this is something that's so basic that everyone does, but I just thought I'd share super quick, is like just repetitive processes. For example, like with Akima, we had this kind of style, which is like these dither effects using the orange. And it's like, man, I was using all these different tools to do it and like exporting it, but they're all so bloated. And then you had to go back and find the dither effect and like tweak the style. And it's like, I just want something where I can just whack an image in. It gives me the effect that I want. I can export it as SVG, chuck it on the website. So it's like building something that has like one use case. So all this does is that. So it's like, I can just, for example, we use these like kind of illustrations and whatever, drop it in, and then you can just go, bang, like this is a dither effect that we can use. And like try a few different iterations. And like this is stuff if we're just using like marketing or whatever, but it's like, all right, sick.
Yeah.
You can, just have that, export it as SVG, bang that into Figma or like, website, whatever. And then another super random one is like, yes, it's just such a stupid app. Like it looks ridiculous, but I had this crypto client where we had this website and it was like this parallax effect where they had these like, this pixel grid on the bottom. And I was like, I really want to like be able to do that. And I tried all these things, generating it and just couldn't do it. And I was like, man, I'm just going to just make my own and draw it. So I just got to make this thing. And it's like, it just works perfectly. So it's like, I just drew this edge on the bottom and then like filled it in, exported that, used that on the website. It looked amazing. And then as part of that job, they're like, they wanted these like custom icons. And I was trying to, use tools like Quiver or whatever to design them like these grid icons. And I was like, man, I can just draw them in this. So it's like, you can just draw these little things and like within the grid, and they turned out sick. And it's like, this is something that took 20 minutes, if that, to make. And it's just like,
like if you're trying to do that in Figma, you'd create some sort of dot grid, you'd zoom right in, you'd have a square and then you duplicate it or something.
Dude, that's what I was doing. And it was like, man.
Well, this took you probably nothing to build, and you've got a tailor-made tool to give you the exact output that you want.
Exactly.
And this is the same. I'm seeing this across the board. Like even Steve last week's episode, he's built something similar, and so many designers. Yanni from Dio is another. He's a wizard, and he's done the same thing. He's created all these tools that help you creatively express yourself in just the way that you want. That you can use it for the project.
For sure.
And you're not locked into what Figma has. You're not locked into what Webflow has or whatever. You can create your own UI. And I just think that's such a powerful thing. I saw an interview with Tomas Bangalter from Daft Punk the other day, and he was talking about how he doesn't use AI because the creation experience for him is not about voice to text. It's about all these fringe areas of experimentation with playing with things and just things sort of organically bubbling out of that. And I thought, that's true. It's really powerful. But I think the one thing that he's probably missing is you can generate the UI that you want. So if you want to play with something, you can get this tooling to create you the varying levels of sliders and knobs and dials to manipulate sound. So I feel that a lot of people have that experience where potentially like, oh, if I'm just going to sit here and ask this tool to generate that dot grid for me, it's going to suck. But if I get it to generate the tool where I can express myself in it, then it's not, because I have the control. And I think what you just showed me sort of reinforces that, and I'm seeing that across the board. So many designers are doing this, and I love it. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's building some kind of place where you could just store all these types of tools, or even if it's worth it, because it's so easy to build and throw this stuff away.
Exactly. Like they're just local, and you just like use it onto the next thing. But sometimes people post like those threads where it has all like the designer built tools, and you're like, oh, this one's sick, and you can just go such a rabbit hole down there testing different things. But like, it's inspiring, right? It makes you want to explore more and push yourself further than you ever had before as a designer. Absolutely. I think it's like expressing yourself to the AI is pretty much that's the hard part. That's the limit. Being able to describe what you want and how you want it. And like, even just watching how other people use it, you learn so much. Like, I don't know, you probably listen to Dive Club with Rid, and you see people on there and you're like, they're building stuff, oh, never thought to ask that. And then you just try that, and it's like, or even Josh Puckett with like the dial kit, and it's like, oh, bring me up a dial kit to change this. And you're like, oh, this is so much better. Like, I was just trying to explain it before, and like animation speeds and stuff. Like,
yeah, you have to learn the vocabulary. And again, that's another reason why, to your example before that you said where, it doesn't Reloom just do that for you, is, well, you've spent all these years understanding the vocabulary of product design and how to get the most out of the tools. So the average person, the quality of the average output's going to get better, but someone who yields the tools with experience is always going to do better. I think that's really cool. So conversion. I just want to come back to that whilst that thought's still in my head. Are you using any sort of tools to monitor user usage and suggest improvements to your system, to your Shopify sites or anything like that? How are you tracking performance and iterating on design, if you are?
Man, I wish I could give you a really good answer for this, but we have yet to ship a live Shopify site yet.
Right.
So this is something we're working on. And that's kind of Jake's wheelhouse. So he's a lot more the data and analytics side of things. So if I'm being completely honest, I'm more the product designer, visual designer side of things. So
which is still amazing in itself. Oh, that's okay. Look, I mean, it's something that I'm really interested in, and there's a whole bunch of products out there that are experimenting with the space. And I've got some experience, but not crazy experience. So I'm just seeing.
I was going to say, I'd be really curious about what you've been seeing or what you've been using as well.
I mean, there's a Postdog have a great tool. I've used, like, if I'm doing analytics, just sort of even Google Analytics is fine. Microsoft Clarity actually works okay. But there's tools that you can sort of export reports and bring into your agent. There's tools that are agent native. I haven't had too much of an experiment with like agent native tooling, but I know that Posthog is sort of heading in that right direction, where you just plug it into your experience. It gives you all the data, and then you can start to work with it in your IDE to suggest improvements and things like that. So that's why I ask, is I haven't had an incredible amount of experimentation yet in that area.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Posthog's really good. I mean, I've used a lot of like Hotjar and Clarity and stuff previously, but yeah, it's interesting this whole concept of like these agentic websites, which is becoming like a thing where it's like a self-improving website, almost like it's getting the analytics and then making suggestions and you're approving them, and then it's iterating on that in real time by itself, which I think is going to come into e-commerce massively of like agentic conversion rate optimization. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, those things sound dreamy, but I see the output that gets generated by this stuff, and I would just never ship it, especially with content. Like, I have some pretty strict sort of skills and guidelines around content, and even with those, it still just can't do a great job of it. So if you were, I've seen people do that where they just sort of have these agents continuously watching, and you know, every day you might get a PR with like, hey, I noticed this, here's the potential solution, I've designed it, I've built it, do you want to review and approve? And that sounds amazing. But I just feel that you're pulling yourself out so far then that, you know, you're just going to get this generic slop of quality. So I think there's probably a fine balance there where it's still kind of human led. I don't know yet, but yeah, it certainly sounds fantastic.
I agree, man. To be honest, like a lot of these things, it's never quite as good as it seems. And then, yeah, you definitely need that human touch. Yeah, you can never just let it run.
maybe we could do a round 2 with Jake.
For sure.
To pick his brain. All right, 100%. Cool. Look, you've shown a lot. I really appreciate your time. I guess before we sort of close out, is there anything that you would say to sort of budding designers or designers in this space that are like overwhelmed with this sort of technology or don't really know what to do? What have you learned that you can share that would put them at ease?
Probably my biggest thing is just like being able to put the blinders on and just focus on one thing. Because I'm sure you get this as well. Like when you go on X a lot and you're looking at X and YouTube and everyone's doing this and Instagram, you're like, fuck, everyone's so good and there's just so many tools, and you can get that like AI psychosis, like where it's just like all too much. And something I've just really focused on is like, I'll get an idea or something I want to pursue and then just kind of just focus on that and like just tuning out the noise and being able to be like, I'm just going to go deep on this for a little bit. And, you know, maybe it's not even going on X or any social media at all until you've figured out what you want to do. And then like, all right, cool. Because I find when there's just too much and you're too overwhelmed, you're not doing anything well. You're like, oh, I'm going to do a little bit of this. I'm going to do a little bit of that. And so that's something I've found really helpful. As well as, if someone was starting out, it's just like doing as much client work as you can. I think that was my biggest thing. Like I never really learnt from just like sitting down and trying to learn like YouTube or uni or whatever. It's like, hey, you've got this project, you have to build a website and it has to be good because someone's paying you. Otherwise, like this is going to be trouble. And it's like just that, like you just go leaps and bounds doing a real client project. Even if you don't really know what you're doing, you can figure it out on the way. But yeah, I just think that's by far the best way to learn is getting into real projects with. You
have to put in the reps, right? It's a muscle and you've got to use it. The more you do it, the better you get. And that's great advice too. Don't feel like you have to be tapped into the zeitgeist 24 hours a day. It's okay to disconnect from the matrix and be a human and spend the time focusing and crafting.
Go touch grass, as they say.
Love it. All right, mate. Look, thanks for your time. On that note, I think I might go touch some grass. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I'll see you later.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers.